Okay, I gave up on this one. I gave up on this one. This has got to be the most stupid take that I've ever heard. How's it going, folks? Jack here with another video, here to talk about some more Armored Core 6. Undoubtedly one of the most exciting games to come out this year. I know that we've had some issues with the AAA industry this year with a lot of shenanigans that they've been dropping, but in the counter to that, we've seen some bangers of some releases. Some that we were initially excited for to begin with, but some were genuine good surprises. Even recently with the likes of Gearbox's Remnant 2, of course the absolutely phenomenal Baldur's Gate 3 that I cannot get enough of. I will be streaming that game in a couple of days on the channel, so stay tuned to that. We are experiencing some good times in gaming, and I think that we should be enjoying that. And the player counts for some of these games are very reflective of this. You know that a company has spent a lot of time to work on something that they've mastered, and they've had some feedback from the fans, and people are genuinely enjoying their products. They know something from the company, and they know that this is going to be a quality product. So it's understandable to be hyped for that. But equally also, it is fine to not be hyped for certain games. I, for an instance, am super excited for an upcoming Souls-like called Life of P that I played a demo of. Phenomenal. But some people don't care too much about that and will more prefer to play the upcoming Lord of the Fallen because that one looks more akin to Elden Ring and doesn't have the Victorian era look that the Life of P has. But that's like a taste issue, right? That's a me problem and a them problem. It doesn't require that I make an entire article to talk about how it is that I am not hyped for Lord of the Fallen, for an instant. But that doesn't stop a gaming journalist sometime. And I today am kind of having to throw a little bit of shade on an article that was sent my way because I know it's not too uncommon to sometimes see game journalists also employ would-be or assume the rage baiting in the same way that YouTubers do it because it gets a lot of clicks and it's profitable sometimes for them if the rage doesn't outweigh what they're putting out. But still, why would you do that? But this one was just too comical for me not to talk about. The offender of today is from the site called The Loadout, which has one of the titles of all times, saying, "I was more excited for Forspoken than I am for Armored Core 6. Despite being a big FromSoft fan, Armored Core 6 is failing to get me invested, which is something even flops like Forspoken and Redfall managed to do. That sounds like bait, doesn't it? But nevertheless, too comical for me to avoid talking about, so let's dive into this article for a little bit. The person writes, "Earlier this year, I was desperately excited for Forspoken. Soon after, I got myself amped up for Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart, which by the way has a DLC, so for you horny blokes out there, and ladies, I'm not sexist, you can definitely go and try that out again if you so want to see the twins." But back to it. Following that, I boarded the hype train for Redfall. As the history books show, citing all those reviews, all of them turned out to be pretty mediocre games to say the least. But all of them were on my anticipated games list of 2023. And managed to get me invested before the underwhelming launches. However, despite FromSoft proving time and time again that it makes incredible games, Armored Core 6 just doesn't excite me whatsoever.
I beg your pardon?
Now, as I said before, it is totally fine for you not to be excited for a given game. The games that he cited, for example, Atomic Heart was one that I have played and completed and done challenges on and all that. It was a game that I was looking forward to and did not pan out to be as good as I expected it to be. Despite it trying to be very much akin to its contemporary in the likes of Bioshock and all, System Shock maybe even, it did not quite live up to the hype, and especially gameplay wise, and also, as some of you pointed out, some of the Russian in-jokes that were supposed to be translated in a certain fashion did not quite do it justice. But I would praise that game for its amazing design and set pieces, and of course, Geoff plays guitar, like, dude, your soundtrack is amazing. Equally as sad was the case of Redfall, a game that unfortunately ended up being trash. It was straight up doo-doo butter. I was looking forward to that game because it bore the name of Arcane Studio to it. They made my babies, Dishonored 2 and Prey 2017. What the hell happened there? Forspoken, or foreskin as some tend to call it, I wasn't hyped for, so don't really care. But back to the article. Within the halls of the loadout, I'm constantly reminded about my obsession with average to bad games. It's kind of my thing. Something about them scratches the itch, whether they offer a unique perspective in a genre or just have kick-ass gameplay. I will more than happily get excited or hyped for a game that screams 6 out of 10, which is also fine as long as you don't misconstrue your excitement for a bad game with it actually being good. A case in point, I made a video last week on Wanted Dead, a game that released this year and one of the biggest WTF that I've ever experienced in a game. It was still an awesome experience though, but the game is bad. As you can tell by now, it's not hard for me to be excited to play a game, but after watching plenty of trailers and previews recently ahead of the Armored Core 6 release date, something struck me. I'm not interested in this game at all. It took me aback when I first noticed this, but nothing stands out to me in this game, despite me praising the Souls series, Sekiro and Elden Ring all the time. From Software's latest title looks to be a complete miss to me, considering most of his games belong to the best game of all time list. This shocked me. There's nothing about this to be shocked about. There's a genre that you have not touched to my knowledge, and you are unfamiliar with it, so naturally it doesn't say much to you. That is at least what I am assuming, despite you being a big From Software fan. I am going to guess that you only jumped onto the games after, I don't know, whatever Souls games you jumped on, and the rest following up until Elden Ring. So not liking it is fine. To me, the question is, why are you going out of your way to throw shade? I dug deep into my psyche.
And here we go.
Are you serious? Okay. I dug deep into my psyche, considering plenty of people seemed desperate to pilot some mechs and tried to figure out if something was wrong with me. Well, something might be wrong. And I realized there are few reasons why I'm not looking to buy the game on day one, and will probably spend that money on Immortal of Avium instead, which releases a few days before. Isn't it that spellcasting game that in first person with like a bunch of A-list actors that are, or should we call them B-list actors? But anyway, the one that was kind of trying to emulate the Doom-like look, looking like something that would be cool if it came out in 2006. I mean, it makes sense. If you enjoyed Forspoken, then this is right in your ballpark. But hey, here comes the reasons. Firstly, I understand that the Armored Core series predates the Souls series of games, with the first title releasing all the way back in 1997. But since then, From Software games design has been pretty much perfected with Elden Ring. While some light Souls elements are woven into Armored Core 6, from the looks of things, it seems to offer no risk to combat. That's not true. It seems like senseless flying around and shooting at other robots for the sake of it, with dying just being a trivial thing aside from costing some credits to repair your mech. That happens in most games, I know. Do you? But it's much more disappointing from a developer known for being absolutely brutal and unforgiving with his game design. Tell me that you know nothing about Armored Core without telling me that you know nothing about Armored Core. Obviously, this person has not done their research whatsoever, has watched those previews and took nothing out of that? Like, within the lines here is the type of criticism that I would have expected from a veteran Armored Core fan, saying something like, oh, the existence of the repair kits is bad because it takes away from the true Armored Core experience, because Armored Core 2 did not have that. Like, why do we have thumbsticks to play with? Like, I need to hold my controller like this. But like, this person is completely ignoring the core of Armored Core. You are playing as a mercenary for hire who just kills people without asking questions. That is literally the point. Flying around, shooting at other giant robots. Like, this brings to mind a comment that was left on the previous video that I made about the graphics that was brought up by Fextralife. This one though being on the case of SkillUp, who in his preview talked about the architecture of Armored Core, but failed to understand that the brutalist look that Armored Core has is how it is supposed to be. Brutalist capitalist dystopia where industries and just big ass robots are leading the march on everything. Think of Cyberpunk 2077, put the citizens of Night City underground and remove the saturation. You have exactly what Armored Core is supposed to look like, at least the environments, cities and all that. They are not supposed to be looking radiant and colorful. Speaking of senseless flying around, Armored Core 6 looks like chaos for the sake of chaos. Nothing looks like it matters here. It seems to have no rhythm or reasons to it.
Careful there, man.
In games like Forspoken, the story sucked for the most part, but at least I know that the main character has a reason to keep fighting. Well, I highly recommend checking out the Internet Historian on Forspoken Explained, and this is just, she has the most cringy reasons to do the thing that she does. But okay, it is your point. I despise Atomic Heart for disappointing me so much, and his story was unforgivingly bland. But hey, at least I know that the protagonist has his reasons to take on the hordes of angry robots. No, P3 in Atomic Heart is driven and mind controlled by Sechenov to do all of his bidding. He has no agency. He is just a tool. He is basically doing the same thing that you are doing in Armored Core. He is tasked to go and kill things, and he does that like a dog. What is your point? What the hell? Like, did you play the same game that I did? The game's intentionally vague and suggestive story trailer may have dumped up excitement among some people, but I wasn't one of them. Yes, obviously because you didn't get it, and that's fine. It's not worth writing an article about. I'm not saying chaos for the sake of chaos can't be fun. Games like Vampire Survivor or Doom are terrific example of games that I love that have perfected gameplay over story or lore. Which, by the way, is, yes, sure, Vampire Survivor, but Doom has great story. It's stupid, it's fun. But that's a mistake there. But the idea of killing monsters or demons doesn't need a reason, since in most forms of media, they're typically evil. Why is our mech the good guy in Armored Core 6? Why are the other mechs bad? Who knows, because the story trailer doesn't give us any information. Okay, this is just kind of sad. This individual calls themselves a big From Software fan. Game that are renowned for not telling the story straightforward, where you need to piece things together through reading item descriptions to understand for the most part what is going on in the game, at least the deeper meanings of things. Lore is never delivered on a silver platter. Some argue that it is done to create engagement within a certain fan base, and some, like myself, take the story of Miyazaki and how it was that he received English-based media and thus implemented that very way of having to seek things, the details of things within the items and every single descriptions to understand things and implementing that in his games. And this is even me giving the benefit of the doubt for a person who is supposed to be a big fan. For the most part, people who are just getting into these franchises are simply looking up channels that actually can tell you the lore, decode what is going on, because they pay much more attention and have played the game before. You could do yourself the due diligence to go and watch any given lore channels out there who is going to deconstruct it. There is clearly a pattern given here. Literally, the story trailer that dropped the other day explains so much.
Reporting to Handler Walter. Mission complete.
621. I'll give you a reason to exist. Let's get to work.
Your mercenary is given a reason to exist. And the beauty of FromSoft game has always been, and has been expanded upon with Elden Ring especially, being that they give you a lot of freedom. It's not Baldur's Gate 3 level of freedom, but it's damn close. If you want to focus on the technical and gameplay aspect, making some builds that are going to be completely breaking the game, you can do just that. If you are the type who want to decode things about the existential crisis of living in a dystopian capitalist world where you don't even have a functioning body and are operating only in a machine, you can do just that. You choose what you want to approach. And that is something that to me is absolutely invaluable, that games give you the choice to be invested in the story or not. For mech games, there are definitely options for that. For the most part, however, it focuses on gameplay. I'm really invested in stories and narratives within video game worlds, and Armored Core 6 has yet to connect me to any of its forgettable characters. I can't tell you one of the names that I've heard in the trailers. I can't even tell you their goals or missions, or why mechs are shooting at other mechs. It adds to my feeling of Armored Core 6 senselessness.
Reporting to Handler Walter.
621. I'll give you a reason to exist.
But after a few minutes of looking at Armored Core 6, I am bored. I think I'm going to skip most of what I've just read here because it sounds just like complaining for the sake of complaining. It's hell stupid. But this is... man, this is just somebody who's salty. I recall describing it to the raised eyebrow of our deputy editor Jamie as a $1 a go arcade game, which may be fun if you are at an arcade, but for a $70 title, I'm not so sure.
You have chosen to defy peace.
Then you have chosen war.
I know this is definitely my issue, then why did you make an entire thing out of this? The fan base of Armored Core 6 and the mecha genre is huge, and it's likely something I haven't tried enough to get into. And I'm very aware the game that I'm interested in are not great, to say the least. But Armored Core 6's gameplay fails to scratch that itch. And I know I'm going against the general consensus here, but hey, someone has got to go against the status quo. Okay, I gave up on this one. This has got to be the most stupid take that I've ever heard. Oh my god. All of that just to say that, you know what? I have no experience with mecha games, but I'm just gonna go against the grain because somebody has got to trigger fans. I mean, you don't know anything about the story yet. The game has yet to come out, which means that you can't really criticize it without knowing anything about it at all, which is good because the hype that is created around it is something that is generated by people who actually know what the they want and are basing their expectation, for the most part, solely on what they've been shown so far. Again, not every single game releases need to be game changers. Even Baldur's Gate 3 that released recently saw its developers commenting that they only expected 100,000 or so players to come to the game because they assumed that this was going to be the amount of D&D fans and or previous, let's say, original Sins players that would be returning to the games that they've made. But lo and behold, they are almost reaching 800,000 players as we're speaking right now. The game is blowing up because it is that good. Criticism against a certain fan base is fine, but it should be justified. What you're doing right now is so stupid, and you should stop that. That said, this has been the video for today. One of the dumbest takes that I've ever saw. It had to end on that list. Thank you for recommending this to me nonetheless, so I know at least some that I should be avoided hearing from. And yeah, whoa, I really hope that they do eat their words once this game comes out. And that said though, yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be doing some more Armored Core content as soon as the game comes out. I expect some streams here, and yeah, wish you all to have a wonderful day, and check out when I'll be playing Baldur's Gate live stream the next couple of days. Yeah, that's it though, see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Cause